Welcome to Positive Read-Ins. Today's episode is on Robert Frost. Robert Frost is America's most famous poet. Even though he died in 1963, he's still widely known. He was also the first American poet to reach worldwide recognition, and he was celebrated by many famous poets and writers like T.S. Eliot, Robert Graves, Ezra Pound, who kind of was the first to write positively on Robert Frost's work. He was a poet that wrote for everyone. His poems are very simple. You don't need footnotes to understand them like you do maybe for some of Eliot's poems. He was writing at the same time. Yet his work also has a lot of rich metaphor and implication, a lot of ambiguities, and of course a lot of memorable lines that have entered into American popular culture. He was writing in the early 1900s, so this is the time of modernism, but he wasn't a modernist at all. There's some argument that could be made that he was a romantic, even though that period had moved on. He still embraced a lot of its ideals, mainly rediscovering or discovering yourself in the natural world, rooting the human experience in emotion instead of rationality. And we can see this in his work. The two poems that I'm going to focus on are sonnets. If you don't know what a sonnet is, this is a 14-line poem. The English or Shakespearean sonnet has the iambic pentameter, so about 10 syllables per line, and it's grouped in, its stanzas are quatrains, and it ends with a rhyming couplet. And this is really the format that Frost follows mostly, though there are variations in that. So the first poem here is Into My Own. This is the opening of Frost's first collection, A Boy's Will, which was published in 1913. This was published in England. This is where he got his start, and then came back to America as kind of a well-known famous writer. And Into My Own, as the title suggests, is a Bildungsroman in a sense. It's about a character kind of discovering themselves, embracing their identity, so to speak, and becoming a man, maybe, in this context. And he had to be aware that, you know, as a writer of sonnets, he's got this giant looming over him, William Shakespeare. And so he's taken the Shakespeare model, but with some changes. And here's the poem. One of my wishes is that those dark trees, so old and firm they scarcely show the breeze, were not as 'twere the merest mask of gloom, but stretched away unto the edge of doom. I should not be withheld, but that some day into their vastness I should steal away, fearless of ever finding open land or highway where the slow wheel pours the sand. I do not see why I should ever turn back, or those should not set forth upon my track to overtake me who should miss me here, and long to know if still I held them dear. They would not find me changed from him they knew, only more sure of all I thought was true. So the theme is escape, discovering yourself through escape, facing the challenges in the world, and through that becoming a stronger person. Like a lot of Frost's poetry, there's a lot of contradictions here, right? He's saying he's not going to be changed at the end, yet at the same time, he's going to be more sure of all he thought was true. He's going to have this confidence, which is a change. And in fact, this entire poem is really just a thought exercise. He's looking at these dark trees, and this is another important element in this poem because many of Frost's poems are set at the edge of the forest, looking at dark trees and realizing something, having a discovery and deciding on something. A critic called these nature lyrics, and she said that the confrontation with the forest produce an illumination or resolution or recognition. And yeah, I think we can group a lot of Frost poems into these nature lyrics, this just being one of them. More on the dark trees we'll get to in the next poem, but these dark trees here, they're just the merest mask of gloom. They're not even actually gloomy. They don't actually stretch out forever. As he says, stretch away until the edge of doom, which is a line he's taken from Macbeth. So he's imagining or wishing that he had some real challenges in life, and he sees that the forest representing these challenges, and he would go off into them and discover himself in those trees. So this is I think a fairly positive poem. It's empowering, perhaps, as a positive message to get out there into the world, face your challenges, and become more confident in yourself. Acquainted with the Night, which he's writing maybe 15 years later, has a much different tone. It's a dour view. It's the same kind of escapism, same kind of theme of trying to get out, to get away from your home, the city, the place that you're at. Another theme we get a lot in Frost is this confrontation between city life and country life. Like the modernist, he was anti-modernity, anti-development in a lot of ways. This poem, Acquainted with the Night, we're not exactly sure what the night is. The opening line and the last line are the same. I have been one acquainted with the night. By the time we get to the end, we do have a better idea. The rhyme scheme, for any reader of poet, if you've read Dante's Inferno, you would know that this is the same terza rima. He's taken the middle rhyme in one stanza, and that's becoming the outer rhyme in the next, in these tercets that makes up the first four stanzas. And of course, in Dante's Inferno, the forest is the entrance to hell. So as we read this, we're not reading about hell, literally, but there is a sense that there's a figurative hell that this walker, this solitary walker, is trying to wade through. I have been one acquainted with the night. I have walked out in rain and back in rain. I have outwalked the furthest city light. I have looked down the saddest city lane. I have passed by the watchman on his beat and dropped my eyes, unwilling to explain. I have stood still and stopped the sound of feet, when far away an interrupted cry came over houses from another street, but not to call me back or say goodbye. And further still, at an unearthly height, one luminary clock against the sky proclaimed the time was neither wrong nor right. I have been one acquainted with the night. So just like in Into My Own, we have this lone character who's leaving the place. He's outwalked the city lights. He's entered the darkness. He doesn't call it a forest, but we can imagine it outside the city. It is the dark trees. It is the forest. Though he's also come back, right? He said, I walked out in rain and back in rain. So he didn't escape as he wished. Just like in Into My Own, where he's recalling or imagining people coming for him or him turning back, he says here he's heard a cry, but it's not to call him back. It's not to say goodbye, right? He doesn't have anyone here that cares that he's leaving, or this is the way he's looking at it. So we get the sense that this walker is depressed and wants to escape wherever he is, but without this kind of confidence that ends Into My Own. Also, we get something that we'll get in some other poems, not Into My Own, but we get this change of perspective from the solitary walker and this experience on Earth to a pulled out perspective where you're connecting with the stars, or in this case, the moon, one luminary clock against the sky. So the moon is telling him the time to leave is neither wrong nor right. So quite ambiguous. What should you do? And I think this gives us some implication of what night is, that it's the hell of indecision. It's the challenges of trying to find your way in life and trying to maybe make sense of life, which again, we're going to get this in other poems as well. So both of these poems, they're lyrical. You could sing them. Acquainted with the Night is certainly darker in mood, but both are bringing in this idea of something being confronted in the forest. And I think this inspires us, certainly inspires me to want to get out into the forest and see what it was that he was wrestling with out there. Well, let me know what you think of these poems. I hope to make some videos on some others soon. Thank you.